So not too long ago, Nintendo had their Switch 2 kind of reveal, and I've never seen a company go from winning everyone over to shooting themselves in the foot so fast. So, for those of you that don't know, Switch 2 is going to be coming out here in just a couple months in that, and initially, a lot of people were pretty receptive to it. A lot of the games that were announced, admittedly, all look fairly good. We got, some new Mario stuff coming, some Donkey Kong, as well as even a Soulsborne-like game from Software. So everything started off pretty well in that. Granted, there were some people out there that were unhappy to hear the price of the Switch 2. It's going to be roughly right around $450 US at least. But it definitely does look like it is going to be a much better machine than the original Switch. So they started off doing pretty well in that. Everybody was pretty excited at that point in time. Kind of the only downside seemed to be that it was going to be a pretty decent upfront cost, but that would pretty much be it. However, like I said, the second part of this story is they did shoot themselves in the foot, and a lot of that stems from, honestly, two different things. The first one is Nintendo announced that they're going to be raising the prices of games from $60 or $70. I know that's kind of the new standard now, but Nintendo is actually going to be upping that another $10 to $20. So a lot of this controversy kind of came from the fact that it wasn't all that long ago where really $70 kind of became the new standard in terms of pricing for games in that. And, not even very long after, Nintendo announced this plan that for digital copies of games, you'd be spending $80, and for physical copies of games, you would be spending $90, which, not gonna lie, a discount on digital stuff and that, to an extent, it does make sense. I wouldn't have agreed with it I probably would have been okay with it if we were looking at, like, hey, maybe the digital copies of games would have only been maybe 60 instead of 70, since that was looking to be the new price, or maybe 50, because I know a lot of Nintendo stuff still is around the $60 range. But they jacked it up, and I think this is interesting for a couple of reasons. The first one is, if Nintendo is able to pull this off, I think we might see the rest of the industry follow. So if Nintendo is able to get away with selling products for around $80 to $90, I don't see why other companies wouldn't say, well, if it's working for Nintendo, why don't we just do it ourselves? So it's already kind of like a very shitty situation. However, unfortunately, it only gets worse because, well, even if you do decide to buy the physical copy of the game, technically, thanks to how Nintendo's now working the Switch 2, you're really spending that $10 extra on a box, let's be honest. So essentially, if you buy the physical copy, what you are getting is like a little, I think they call it like a game card, which would, yes, have some data from the actual game, but not all of it. You would actually be putting that into your Switch 2, and then from there, you would be able to download the remainder of the game online. To me, this kind of messed up for a couple of reasons. The first main one being is that it feels like now, even if you do go out and physically buy something, you're not actually getting what you're spending your money on. You're essentially, like I said, just kind of getting a box that includes essentially a code card. Because if you don't have internet, you're not actually going to be able to play the game, which to me is kind of another thing, is that, not everybody has quality internet these days. I know for a lot of people that kind of sounds like a weird thing, but for myself, I kind of live in a rural part of the state, and it's not too hard for me to drive 15-20 minutes down the road, and people don't really have access to any quality internet providers, if honestly any. And I think that presents a problem to where, it used to be you could go out, buy the game, put it in your Switch, play it, you were good to go. But now there's that extra barrier there, and in all honesty, now you're kind of being punished for it, which I think it's just a horrible thing that Nintendo's doing. Hopefully, with a lot of the backlash, they will readjust, maybe rethink their decisions, but unfortunately, Nintendo has not been the most consumer-friendly over the course of its lifespan. The other thing is, though, is let's say you have some Switch games in that from just the regular Switch that you enjoy. You'll now have to buy an upgrade pass to play it on Switch 2. Now, granted, this has been something that has been done before in that. I remember actually back when Call of Duty Ghost was coming out. At least I believe it was Ghost. I could be wrong. It was one of the Call of Duties at the time. But you could buy it for, the standard 360. And then from there, if you did want to upgrade it, it would be kind of a small little couple buck upgrade pass. Which, unfortunately, on Nintendo's end, it now looks like they're going to be charging even more for that. I've seen price estimates from anywhere between like $15 to $30 in that, just to switch it up, which to me it's just insanely high. Because even if you do go out and you're kind of like, I'll buy the copy for the original Switch in that, maybe save, $20, $30 in that. Well, now you're going to be punished even further because you'll have to spend an additional $30, potentially, just to even play it on the Switch 2. So as of right now, for whatever reason, Nintendo and a lot of their other IPs, they just seem to be upsetting me. But let me know your thoughts on it. Like I said, this is relatively fresh kind of news here, so there is still time for Nintendo to change things up, maybe get on a better path. But like I said, unfortunately, they don't have the best history when it comes to interacting with consumers. So we'll just have to wait and see. But thank you all for watching, and we will catch you next time.